All it together, we'll start with roll call with the assessor.
Larry Stein here.
Miles Davidson.
Brian Mon.
Carrie Bloomer, Marissa Treat.
Rick Warren.
Tommy Johnson III.
Notice of the meeting was properly posted on August 15th. And Jerry, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of July 20?
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On the consent docket, we need to accept this in front of you, the document for item 30 before we accept the. Is there a motion?
Do we all have this or just you?
I don't know, but you're free to pass it along.
Yep, that is. Just an updated.
Oh, here it is. I'll move the consent docket, including, do we need to receive that, or can I just move the consent docket, including that document?
That works.
Okay. I will move to receive, this looks like a state auditor form. Okay, I'll move to receive this form.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And then I'll move approval of our consent docket, including this form.
Second. Whoever made the motion.
Oh,
Please vote for the receiving of the document. Now, if you'll vote for the consent docket as a whole.
move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Okay, Mike.
Good morning. All right, this is the first month of the new budget year, 23-24. We have received the numbers from the assessor's office, so we're working on the supplement numbers that we will bring back next month. So we'll skip to the employee benefits funds right now. It's only based on 1 month.
Are we on the PowerPoint or the?
PowerPoint, I'm sorry. I mean, we're looking good, but this is only after 1 month of information, and employee benefits we really track every month very carefully. Then we have the medical and paid claims as of August 16th. Compared to last year, we're 17.6% net better than last year, but this is only based off 1 month. And John will expand on this. And then the last thing I have is the capital project budget. We have an amount of 221,300 in unallocated funds and 52,241 in capital projects as needed. In the beginning of the budget, we also budgeted a transfer of 360,000 in that will come later this year. That's all I have.
Any questions of Micah?
We're going to be talking about employee benefits. Can you give us an overview of what's happened from year to year, please?
I'd
be happy to
Yeah.
bring that back next meeting. We don't have this today.
Okay.
What agenda item?
I'm looking at page 8. Is that a good indication of the costs?
Let me see. That's like the graph.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I will be happy to bring back maybe a 10-year comparison next budget board meeting, if that's okay. This is just, the graph on page 8 is just compared to last year.
Right.
I mean,
So we've seen an increase of 64.6%. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know what, where are you looking?
I'm looking down at the bottom right. I'm just trying to get a feel for where we are because we were, one of the most important things we did recently was
Yes.
to fund some more additional benefits. Okay.
Yeah.
Further questions? Is there a motion to receive a report?
Motion.
I'm sorry, wouldn't it be appropriate for him to talk about it in this, since we're talking about these reports now?
You're welcome to.
Yeah.
I mean,
John?
wouldn't it be in line with where we're at on the agenda? John?
Well, it doesn't have his own item 33.
Right, but I know that Mr. Stein asked a question for more information based off of this information, so I think maybe it's in line with where we're at on the agenda.
To the extent he's prepared to talk about it, do you have anything to offer on this particular question?
Yeah, I'd like to bring it back next meeting and have a 10-year overview of kind of where we went year to year, what our actual costs were. On the monthly financial report, of course, it just compares to last year. And then my report compares to last year as well. It doesn't include prior years, but we could include that moving forward if you'd like.
So are you asking to bring your item back next meeting?
No, sir.
So you're asking us to make a decision based on information that we will receive after making the decision?
No, sir. Larry asked if we could have a comparison of multiple years together. The budget board items don't compare more than 2 years. It only compares current versus prior. So next month we could bring out a bigger comparison, include more years, kind of show where we've been the last 10 years or such. But we don't have one prepared today for Mr. Stein.
Further questions? Larry?
No.
Anything else while he's up at the microphone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Cody.
Good morning, everyone. The watch list, we added 2 new items this month. We added $50,000 for indigent ankle monitoring for court services, as well as $97,000 for a potential lease agreement between Oklahoma County and the PBA on behalf of emergency management for their location at Krause. They are currently using that as storage. Still kind of up in the air what we're gonna, if there's gonna be a lease, how much it's gonna be. So we went ahead and put it on the watch list just to track it, and we'll kind of have some more discussions as we go through the supplement process. That's the same thing with the court services. We'll have some more discussions as we move into the supplement process. My anticipation is next month we will probably have a significantly larger watch list after we go through the September supplement, have some discussions related to items that are requested to be funded that we may not have the money to fund upfront, or we may choose to kind of take a wait and see approach. But right now you have 3 items on the watch list. Currently in the reserve fund, there's $690,002 sitting there.
Can you explain why Kraus, or the rent for emergency management at Kraus, would that not have already been included in their budget for this year, knowing that they were going to be out there anyway?
The issue with that, we realize that that is not an item that has been a lease in the past. While
Okay.
the sheriff's office, we have a lease on behalf the sheriff's office for Krause for county locations over in ICB and other places. This was one that we have not done in the past. It was caught, and that's why we're having some ongoing conversations.
Okay.
If it would have been funded last year, then the money would have been already in there for it, since we kept that level flat budget from last year, but it was not budgeted last year, so it's nowhere as of right now.
Mr. Court Clerk, I noticed yours is not on here. Are you having your BET member add that to the watch list? Because I had thought you were going to have us what day do we need to expect to staff those new judges?
We haven't done any projections. Nothing's happened.
Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped up because I thought you were asking about the rent. You're not asking about the rent in ICB. You're asking about
On the
ours.
what?
Yeah,
I
we
thought
haven't
you were
added that to
doing Your
the,
new positions for the new judges, that you were gonna put that on, because we were gonna be expected to be.
Yeah, at this point, we also have cost collections coming up that may take extra staff too. They've just put it on us and made a statute for that. So at this point, we're evaluating how many employees we're gonna need. We could need anywhere from 5 to 7. So we're trying to whittle it
Well,
down.
that's gonna be non-negotiable. I mean, we will have to
We have to
staff
fund it. We
the,
have to staff the
courts.
courtrooms, and we also have to staff because of the new statutes on collections and the fact that our computers don't have the ability to sort and do what they need to do. We'll have to have manpower do it. So it will take us 15 to 30 minutes per thing, and we deal with thousands.
I just wanna be sure it gets on there, because that won't be among the negotiables. So we need to have our eye on that, because I think it's gonna be
We'll
substantial.
get right on it. We'll get right on it. We've been talking about it, trying to work it all out.
Okay. All right, any other questions, Mr. Compton?
Did the $1.4 million for the assessor's remodel not make it this list yet?
no, sir. It was not requested. If your representative would like to request that item, we would
I
be
thought
happy
he
to
did.
discuss
I
it.
just want to make sure.
You'd have to talk to the clerk's office to see if that request was made to be put on the agenda. It did not make it to the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Is there more information on the ankle monitoring, how much we're spending on that? And mostly I would like to just know who our contractor is. Are we in state? Are we out of state? How much do we spend right now? I know that this is on the watch list for later. I'm interested why the county is paying for it. I thought that, but I have a lot of questions about that, and I don't know if it's appropriate for me to ask for you to maybe provide, or if there's somebody else that could get me more information.
Well, Grant Billingsley can get you quite a bit. If you want, we can have a little bit of discussion offline.
Awesome.
I've got some information on it. Grant was out of town, or not out of town. He was out of the office for a little bit around the time we were doing this. He is doing an assessment on what he thinks he's going to need for this next year. He stayed flat from the previous year, so he has the money in there that he had this past year for indigent ankle monitoring. But there has been a fairly steady increase as far as a growth rate on the indigent ankle monitors over the last several years. So we do want him to do an analysis to see what he's going to need.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move to receive.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now Mr. Wilkerson again. And this item, I'll just mention, was brought back because due to unforeseen circumstances that the court clerk wasn't able to participate the last time the budget board. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That's 35, isn't it? Excuse me. Go ahead with this one.
Sure, if you can pull that attachment up, just to dive down in the numbers real quick, where we were at last fiscal year compared to this fiscal year. Actually, the utilization has gone kind of down, so we're looking really good on the medical. Through about a month and a half, we're $1.5 million less paid this fiscal year than last fiscal year. Prescriptions are up only because we've paid more prescription invoices. So if we take a snapshot of last year versus a snapshot of this year, right now, currently at this time, last year we paid a month more of claims, of prescription claims last fiscal year. So that's why it's showing an increase. We've actually paid a month more of prescription claims this fiscal year versus last fiscal year. So we kind of paid quicker. Now, the really key to look at our prescription claims, that's what was driving our plan costs. We had a lot of transfers last year because our prescription costs were way up. We made some changes effective 7/1, some big changes. We put retirees off our prescription plan, the ones who are 65 and older on a Medicare plan. And I did the average. So the prescription claims, that change was effective 7/1. So the prescription claims we've received after 7/1 that were incurred after that change, we're seeing those trend way down. We're seeing the result of that change. As of when my report was created, we were seeing a decrease of about 17.9% less for each 2 weeks versus last fiscal year, and that results in about $93,000 less every 2 weeks. We've received one yesterday. I updated those numbers, and we're turning about 14% less than we were every 2 weeks on our prescription costs, which is a huge amount. So those changes are working. They're kind of counteracting those higher cost drugs and higher cost medications. But just to let you know, an update on that the prescription plan changes are working.
Which, let's just come, so these changes that we voted on a month or two ago were to directly affect the high cost prescriptions that we will be discussing.
No, this was,
On
what,
item
what this
35.
was, the change, if you remember, before our retirees age 65 and older and their spouses were on a Medicare supplement plan, the county paid about $1 million for it, $1.1 million. They were on a prescription or self-funded prescription plan that we paid about $2.8 million. So all in total about, 2.8, $3.9 million for. Effective 7/1, we put them on a Medicare supplement plan combined with a Medicare supplement drug plan and capitated our cost at 1.4 million versus untold spend if they were on a regular drug plan. So that's the change we made. It wasn't directly related to any of these drugs we're going to talk about now. Totally different kind of issue, but it does save us money. Absolutely. And it is saving us money. That's the big reason, because we saw those prescription drug claims rising. So we had to do something to counteract that. And that was the change made 7/1. And then we'll talk about those other drugs here in a second on a different agenda item.
About a month ago, we were checking all the seat cushions, trying to find some money.
Mm-hmm.
Did we really need to do that with this kind of savings?
Oh, we absolutely did, because we had bills to pay last fiscal year and we didn't have money. So luckily, claims are trending down on the medical side, and the prescription plan changes we made effective 7/1 this new fiscal year. They weren't in place last fiscal year. Those are really impacting our costs now. We're seeing the result of those savings.
Okay, any further questions on this item?
Move to receive.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 34 is a transfer and appropriation from ARPA fund capital to operation. And Joe, if you want to speak to it, if there's questions, I don't know if there are.
We, as you know, we had a radio project for emergency management where we bought through ARPA radios for interoperable communications for the fire departments in East Oklahoma County. This is just to provide the chargers for those radios, and they remain on our inventory, as I recall.
That's the way I recall too.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, as what I was saying with item 35, due to unforeseen circumstances, the court clerk wasn't able to be here or represented the last time this was voted on, and it's asked that we bring it back for consideration. Go ahead, Mr. Wilkerson.
Sure. Good afternoon. We're just bringing this to your attention. Chairman's office asked us to, obviously. Most plan sponsors are dealing with the same exact issue on these high-cost drugs. Some cover them, some don't. So we're just going to give you information again and let you make a decision if you want to cover them or not. The two drugs in question are Wegovy and Saxenda, and they're approved. I put the physician prescribing guidelines on the agenda item, and that's what they're approved by the FDA for. So if a physician prescribes a drug for something else, that's called off-label use. It's not covered under the prescription plan or any prescription plan usually. So these are prescribed only and approved by the FDA only for weight loss. Again, you can cover them or not. We spend about $800,000 on them right now, currently a year. Where other plan sponsors are looking at it as, what's the long-term cost expense for this versus the payback? What we know with all these drugs, including Ozempic and everything else, they're black labeled by the FDA, which means they have the highest possible side effects of any drug, cancers, other things, the unknown, the future unknowns. So we have to, just make you aware of those, make you aware of the cost, how much we spend, and it's not typically covered by most health plans just because of the cost. It's highly expensive. So the number of scripts for these drugs make up about 2% of our total prescriptions ran through the health plan, and the cost is about 6% of our total health spend on just these two drugs. So that's why we bring it to your attention. I brought Mr. Fleet here from our prescription consultant, if you have any questions, and we'll be able to answer those for you, hopefully.
Questions?
Before we start, I was reading the agenda and I noticed there's a number of different attachments here on this agenda. I didn't note those on the electronic version I was seeing in remotely.
Those were listed on the agenda that,
Or were they on the remote? that
Yes.
I received?
and what those are is the physician prescribing guidelines for each of the medications as approved by the FDA. So these are just approved just for weight loss, and you have to be over a certain amount of weight to qualify for them. So I just wanted to put that out there and have that on the agenda so you would know.
So John, I had previously asked you to do the comparison of the individuals that were on this versus what the cost savings were of the drugs that they've gotten off of, such as blood pressure and heart pills and all this other stuff. And then when it comes to lifestyle drugs, what other lifestyle drugs do our plans pay for? And are we willing to start taking a look at as well?
Great question. So this is by far the most expensive drug, that we have on the health plan besides Ozempic and the other ones that are for type 2 diabetes.
You're saying that this drug is more expensive than some of the Alzheimer's drugs and stuff like that that we cover?
The biggest spend or classification we spend on Ozempic and this combined, that's the biggest spend percentage of our drug spend. Those other drugs are rare that come up for certain conditions, but our other lifestyle drugs, say Men's Health, for example, that was brought up last time, we spend $82,000 a year for about 300 members on that drug versus these two, we spend $800,000 for 100 members. It's way cheaper, unfortunately, to pay the diabetic medication, other medication than it is this. We don't know what the future spend on these are. Hopefully it'll help save other health conditions in the future, but we're just not sure. But currently, diabetes medication, high blood pressure medication is way cheaper than these.
And this is only to exclude these two drugs.
If the board so chooses to. Just up to the board.
Mr. Court Clerk, you have anything? I know you wanted us to bring this back for
I
consideration.
spoke to John a little bit, but I've done quite a bit of research on this. The positive side of this drug, does it save us money on heart attacks?
It's yet to be determined. We know it reduces weight loss. It has a positive effect on BMI, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes to keep your A1C low. We know it does that. We don't know cost versus outcome long term. These are all new. We don't know. It's kind of uncharted area. These were all recently approved. What we do know is it's extreme high cost per person compared to other treatments.
So is there alternative treatments to help people?
There are. There are prescription pills available. They're covered under the health plan. They're not extreme results as these. These are pretty simple. You take a shot, it has really good results to help you lose weight. They're pretty extreme, really fast. The pills don't act as fast, obviously. These are, it's a simple equation of, how many calories, how much physical output you get versus what kind of drug you're taking. But these, do it way faster than the prescription medications we currently have available that have been on the plan for a long time. Those are really low cost compared to these.
But we haven't done any data collection that shows whether we've prevented heart attacks or
It's too early into
extended
it.
diabetes.
Really too early into it to tell. There haven't been studies completed on those drugs for that kind. There haven't been studies completed either on the adverse side effects. Because if you look at adverse side effects, and that's what some employers are looking at too, since it has that black box label from the FDA, which is the highest possible, help me, David, highest possible complications with cancers and other things. There's a lot of unknowns with these two drugs. After some more time, after these have been on the market more time, there'll be more studies done on, cost savings versus cost output.
Isn't there a compound for these shots?
Not approved by the FDA.
So
So
we're
there are
working towards
clinics.
that.
Yeah, there are clinics popping around that are doing compounds. From my understanding, those, they're getting their ingredients from out of the country, from India and different places like that. And I would suggest no one to take those. These are obviously coming from the manufacturers.
So the option that was presented last time, which was to go towards the compound, now you're saying that we shouldn't use those, we should use the FDA-approved drug?
I never suggested going towards the compounds.
I didn't say that you suggested, I said that there was suggested that we go towards the compounds. Now we're saying that those are from out-of-country drugs and unsafe to use?
Well, unless they're coming
suggested?
from the manufacturer,
It was
you don't,
suggested just now from the left.
Yeah, I did bring this up last time too, because I had heard that this was a possibility. And my understanding, and I've not done research and gone to see what's been approved, what hasn't on that, but I was told that that is an option, which would be a cheaper option. So if there is something that's available that's legitimate and okay to use, then we could go down that path. If it's currently not approved, then I obviously wouldn't recommend doing something that's not approved. But I do think that just given the way all medications work in the entire process, there eventually will be something that is cheaper and available. I do know that we do have a lot of great options on our benefits, and I think all of us, regardless of how we feel about how we vote today, I mean, we all want everyone to have healthy life, well-being of life, and we're looking at the spending piece of it here. So.
No, we're looking at the tree instead of the forest, because we're not looking at our holistic plan. We're not looking at the fact that we have equine therapy that we're paying for, that we have pet separation therapy that we're paying for. What we're doing is we're literally looking at our employees and saying, you know, you're not worth getting healthy. You're not worth losing weight.
I would respectfully ask that you withdraw that, because you're accusing us of saying that, and I am in no way saying that I don't agree with somebody's lifestyle or I want somebody to not be healthy. I absolutely want someone to be healthy. So I do think that was a little bit out of line.
Okay,
I do agree
apologize.
with you, and we have had many discussions that there are a lot of things on our benefits that we probably should be looking at, and this is one of them. I didn't bring this back up here, but I think it is a good conversation. I think there's a lot of conversations that we need to have, because you're right. There's things that the county, the taxpayers probably shouldn't be paying for. And this is, sometimes you take incremental steps. And I think this is a step in that direction to say we're serious about paying attention to how we're spending our tax dollars.
I'm the one that brought it up because I wanted a little more information. I wasn't able to be here. One of my employees had a heart attack and he wasn't able to speak for me. Looking at the drug and not having an obesity problem, but if I had one, I would be real concerned because obesity causes heart attacks, strokes, all kinds of things that can hurt your health. So my question, John, is based on what we're spending on you said about 100 people?
100 people, but 800,000.
Each person is important. All of our people are very important, each and every one of us. But based on that, do we feel like the money we're spending, are we saving money where? Do we feel like the money we're saving, because I've seen several of them that have lost a lot of weight. It's unbelievable how much they've lost. I'm very proud of them. But therefore, they're no longer risk for heart attacks. According to the studies, 20% less risk for strokes, diabetes. So is the cost there? Are we saving money there?
We could be. Long term we could be, but those impacts have yet to be determined because we haven't had enough time to study them. So
The FDA is fast tracking another version of this by just limiting to these two. Another one comes along that's approved by the FDA. Do we have to have another meeting to say that we won't be able to provide that drug?
you would.
David, you're here. Do you care to say anything? I didn't want to waste your time by having you here and not having anything to offer.
No, it's very important, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. The only other couple of things I might just add to what John's already said, to your point, Commissioner Trade, is there are approximately 50 companies that are in clinical trials for weight loss. The current leader that's in phase 3 of a clinical trial is Eli Lilly. The point is that there are going to be more coming down the pipe. They're not here today. And as John said, there just has not been any in the industry, not just with us, but in the industry at whole, what are the long-term potential health outcomes? We don't know. What I do know from the information that I've been studying on the indications and usage for these two particular drugs, Wegovy, as an example, has not been studied in patients with a history of pancreatitis. So we don't know. They don't know because it hasn't been studied. What has also not been studied are the long-term potential effects, positive, of heart conditions, strokes, and heart attacks, that sort of thing. To John's point, with Saxenda, the kind of really the same thing. What it is approved for, and what the studies that have not been done in relation to that particular outcome of weight loss. So it is premature to speculate what the long-term effect is. Do we all believe that weight loss can be positive down the road? Absolutely. But there's no documented proof at this point. So it's a very hot topic with all employers. 80% or more of them are not covering it. The 20% that do cover weight loss drugs will sometimes have pretty extensive prior authorization, as was indicated. And that's really where the industry stands at this point. So I don't know if that answers your question, at least gives you a little more information, but that's where we're at. There's 7 GLP-1 drugs that could be administered for type 2 diabetes. And then there's the 2 that are currently available for weight loss. And that's what every employer is having to go through right now, is that what do we cover? How do we cover it if we cover it?
David, the only thing more popular than drug advertisements are advertisements by lawyers saying that if your spouse or loved one died because of taking this drug, you need to sue them. Isn't that just the nature of the beast of pharmaceuticals? If somebody can take an aspirin and they can die, and somebody can take an aspirin and they can get over their headache.
And that's
So
why
everybody's going to react differently.
That's right.
And if we can help people with some immediate problem, the suffering of long-term effects can be varied as the population.
That's exactly right.
Are we more liable though when they black label it, as John mentioned? You mentioned they black labeled it, so therefore they've told us that the side effects are off the charts on these particular drugs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's what we believe at this point. Correct.
Yeah. Do you have any numbers on that?
Not that I know of at this point.
And just to clarify, there are other drugs, and I know we discussed this the last time this was before us. There are other drugs that can be prescribed to patients to assist with weight loss that are not these 2 expensive drugs.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And there are more coming online as we.
I wish they would have come online tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know.
So what you're really saying is you don't want Wegovy and Saxenda because they're too expensive, and whoever's on that in the county should find an alternate that doesn't have these 2 brand names or these 2 ingredients.
Not at all. We're just providing the board with the information so they can make a decision like all other employers do. This conversation's been held across the country with other, every employer has a big group health plan. They face this tough decision. That's why we bring the information to you, since it's new and it's a cost, to let you make the decision.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion anybody cares to offer on this?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, motion fails. Item 36, you want to talk to us about the YMCA?
This is just a standard renewal agreement with the YMCA. We do need to amend the item or bring it back, actually. They made a clerical error in a table included in the agreement. We can revise it or amend it to be approved, or I can bring it back. I just need to make a revision to it.
Just along the lines, do you know what the utilization is of this program?
Yes, sir. We have 115 people on it. The county pays $1,955 a month, so about $24,000 a year. They reduce the price. Our members pay a reduced price, about half price, versus if they went there on their own, and they get half the joining fee. So it's a really good deal.
Probably, just for the sake of this conversation we just had, I think in the future, if we have these things, if you could, I didn't mean to catch you off guard with that, but in the future, if we can have that, that'd probably be beneficial for us to know what our participation rate is. And any other questions about this item?
Say again, how many people use it?
115. And then there's a table that shows in the agreement kind of how much the Y writes off and how much the county pays and how much each employee pays. That's a table that they had a clerical error on. So if you want me to bring back the agreement, we can, or we can revise it or amend it as approved, however the board wants to proceed.
Do you have the accurate table
Yes,
to
sir.
present as a substitute?
Yes, sir. I can tell you the accurate numbers. So in the table currently, under the YMCA investment, it says $6 for an adult, $9 for a household. That should have been $10.50 for an adult and $18.50 for a household. Under company investment, that's what the county pays. That's correct. We pay $17 for a single or $17 for a family. That's correct. And then the employee investment they have, that's a monthly rate for employees, should read $17 for a single and $34 for a family.
Can you provide that corrected document to the clerk?
Yes, sir.
I'd make a motion to approve with the caveat that if you exercise, you can remove weight and that prevents you from taking obesity drugs.
All right, is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? Okay, item, are there any citizens to speak to the budget board? Board comments, the assessor.
It was a great evening the other night honoring our Hall of Famers. Terrific job, Commissioner. Good job. And thank you to the commissioners for allowing the Asian Night Market Festival posters around the courthouse. It's a great event, Friday and Saturday from 5 to 11. You ought to be over there in Military Park. It's a great event.
I just want to wish everybody happy back to school week and praying for our teachers, our administrators, our parents, our students, that everyone has a great school year.
No comment.
I would just like to wish Jerry Stone a happy birthday tomorrow. Awesome. Miles will sing to you later. Okay, any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, just another